All right, everyone, we are going to get some inspiration from an artist today, and I'm going to show you some pictures of his work. This is what we're going to create today, but let's look at our artist that we're going to focus on today. The artist that we're going to focus on today does something very, very interesting with his type of art. He creates something called skateboard decks. So this image right here is a picture of his artwork, and he designs pictures that can go on the top of a skateboard. And he sells these skateboards. So we're going to get some inspiration from him and design kind of like our own version of his design for these skateboards. So we're going to use some simple shapes and many different colors to make a landscape. That means a picture that looks like it's outside. So on these worksheets here, these will help you see the different types of shapes that we're going to be cutting today with our scissors. And this is our goal today, to make a skate deck, so kind of like the shape of a skateboard. And to use many different types of lines, so maybe it's a wavy line, maybe it's a zigzag line, to create different layers of this landscape. So starting with the water, grass, hills, mountains, and then the shining sun and the clouds in the sky. So the first thing I'm going to start with is my blue paper, and I'm going to cut the shape of my skate deck, the top of a skateboard. So I'm just going to take my marker right here. And to make this look like a rounded skateboard, I'm just going to make a little curve on each of the corners to tell myself that I need to cut these corners off. So once I put those 4 corner curves in there, I'm just going to start to cut each of these corners off with my scissors. So as I cut these off, it's starting to look like a rounded skateboard. All right, so here's going to be my background of my landscape, kind of like the sky of my landscape. So in your basket, you have lots of different types of colors for the different layers of your landscape. So I'm going to start with the different shades of blue for my water. So I'm going to pick 2 or 3 blues here. There's dark, medium, and light blues. I'm going to put all of my papers together in a pile so that they're going nice and even here, because I'm going to cut the water shape all together to save myself some cutting time. So with my marker, I'm just going to make a wavy line. So a wavy line has areas that go up and down, and up and down, and up and down. So think about using your marker to draw a big wave, not a wave that looks very, very tiny like this. That's going to be really hard to cut out. Do 3 or 4 big waves. So then I'll use my scissors and cut this out, all 3 papers together. So all 3 of my papers are in here together. So go around the curve. And cutting a curve might be kind of tricky for some of us. We just have to do tiny little cuts until we get to the end around the curve. Okay, now I can put these aside. I don't need those anymore. And I have 3 big waves right here. So I'll put those aside. Now I'm going to start to cut my grass. So in my basket, I'm going to find some different shades of green, light, medium, and dark greens. So for my grass, I'm going to do kind of a zigzag line. So a zigzag line goes up and down with triangles. So think about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 triangles. Make your triangles kind of big. Again, too many tiny triangles, that's going to be really hard to cut out. So keep your triangles kind of big. Now I've got all 3 of my green papers here in a nice pile together. Make sure they're nice and even here. Cut it all together. So cutting these together is going to save some cutting time. You don't have to cut every piece of green by itself. So with my zigzag line, I have to keep going up and down, and up and down, up and down. Small little cuts. Okay, I can put my scraps aside. And here's my 3 layers of green for my grass. Now I'm going to grab some tan or some brown for the mountains. So mountains are a little bigger than grass, but it is a zigzag line again. So I think I'm just going to do 1, 2, or 3 triangles for the mountain. Put all my brown papers together and cut these 3 triangles together. Okay, once I have that, I put my scraps aside, and I have 3 big layers of brown for the mountains. 1, 2, 3. Okay, now I'm gonna worry about the sky later. I'm gonna focus on gluing down my layers of my landscape. So I'm gonna take my blue and I'm gonna start in the middle here and go down from there. So I think I'll take a little pencil and give myself a little marker on my paper. So just put a little tiny mark in the middle of your paper, and that's where your first layer will start. So for me, I started with the mountains and then went down to the grass and water, and I kind of mixed and matched different layers. So you can keep your 3 layers of mountains together, or you can mix and match. So I think my first layer will start there. I'll take my glue. I just need to put one little line right here with my glue, and I'm gonna stick that first layer down. And then I'll put one more line for the next brown for the mountains here. And I'll stick that layer down. And I'm gonna keep doing this with my brown until I've got all 3 layers of my mountains in here. Okay, now I'm gonna start with my grass layer. So I will start with my light green grass and put it right underneath the mountains. So what I'm doing right now is something called overlap. I'm putting my next layer over the first layer. So each time I'm putting that next layer over. So these look like they're behind, these look like they're in front. Okay, my last layer of grass here, one line of glue, stick my green down, and now I'm ready for my water. So I'll stick down one line for my light water. Notice how I'm going from light to dark with each layer. Light brown to dark, light green to dark, light blue to dark blue. That's because when you look at a big landscape, a big area of space, all the spaces start light and get dark. Okay, my last spot here. All right, it looks like all my layers are stuck down. So now you'll notice that some of my paper is going off my skate deck. We'll cut those off at the end. Last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out some circles for the sun and some wavy clouds. So in your basket, you'll find red, orange, and yellow, just squares like this. So I made 3 different sizes for my sun here. I made a large red, a medium orange, and a small yellow, so I could put one on top of the other and overlap to make the sun look like it was shining in the sky. So I'll cut out my circles and glue those down. For your clouds, what you're gonna do is fold your paper in half so that you can cut out 2 clouds. And just make some wavy lines. And you have to go around each of those curves. Try your best, because I know curvy shapes are kind of hard to cut out. You have to keep moving your hand around the curve. And now you have 2 clouds for the sky, 1, 2. Okay. Now let's imagine I finished my sky, my sun, and my clouds. Now what I'm going to do last is I'm going to take my scissors and cut off these little pieces in the back that went off my paper so that I can see the shape of my skate deck really clearly. Just cut these off. Okay, as I've cut off that last little part there, it looks finished after I do my sky, and then I'm gonna put my name on it and go put it on the drying rack. Now, before I do put it on the drying rack though, if there's any extra shape you want to put into your landscape, like maybe you wanna add some little trees or some animals or some people, that's fine. Use your extra scraps to cut out some other shapes and put in your paper if you want. Be creative with it, okay?